Most men don't realize they've already lost the game of money, not because of one catastrophe, but through the quiet routines they never question. They wake, they work, they spend, and the years disappear, yet wealth never arrives. Fortune doesn't slip away by accident. She abandons those too timid to seize her. Machiavelli warned that fortune favors the bold, and history proves him right. Money bends only to those who sacrifice, who strike with discipline and daring. If you can't face this truth, stop listening now. But if you can, then stay. Because what follows is the exact price of wealth, the hidden cost most men will never dare to pay. Look closely at every man who commands wealth and influence. From the Medici princes of Florence to the billionaires of Silicon Valley, none of them arrived at power through comfort. They bled for it. They gave up what others cling to. They understood a principle Machiavelli repeated often. The world does not reward men equally. It rewards those who are willing to do what others refuse. This is the choice before you. Either remain content with mediocrity or learn the sacrifices that separate rulers from subjects. The first sacrifice is family. It is not easy to say, but reality does not bend for our comforts. A child deserves your attention, and rightly so. But that same devotion diverts you from the ruthless concentration wealth requires. A marriage too early binds you with duties that consume time, energy, and money you cannot afford to lose. Even the sacred ties to parents and siblings can weigh you down with obligations that slow your ascent. This is why many great men, emperors, generals, and entrepreneurs postponed family until after their position was secure. Julius Caesar delayed fatherhood while he carved his name into Rome's history. Modern magnates often do the same, building empires first, then passing them on to heirs once the fortress is already built. Sacrifice here does not mean abandoning your kin. It means delaying the sweetness of family life until you have the strength to protect them with permanence. The second sacrifice is health. Here lies a paradox. Health is essential to life, yet in the pursuit of wealth, it is often neglected. Machiavelli once wrote that men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance. Wealth, in other words, is often treated with greater urgency than life itself, and history proves him correct. Entrepreneurs burn through nights without sleep. Tycoons drive themselves through exhaustion, meals skipped, nerves shredded. Elon Musk confessed to living at the edge of collapse while Tesla nearly went bankrupt. Steve Jobs in his youth cared little for balance, obsessed instead with building Apple. The toll is severe: fatigue, stress, poor nourishment. But the drive to secure fortune outweighs the body's protest. Many who succeed spend fortunes later to restore the health they once sacrificed. Yet without that sacrifice in the beginning, the wealth would not exist at all. The third sacrifice is friends. Wealth narrows your circle. In youth, companionship is easy. You are surrounded by laughter, leisure, and those who share your distractions. But success is not built among the idle. To rise, you must prune. Those who drain your energy, those who ridicule ambition, those who are content with mediocrity, these cannot remain. The rich and powerful often have fewer companions, but those few are chosen with precision. They are equally ambitious, equally ruthless, equally committed. They become comrades in arms, not drinking partners. Machiavelli warned princes to avoid flatterers and to surround themselves only with men who would speak truth, however harsh, and sharpen their judgment. The same law applies today. Without pruning, your circle becomes a cage. With pruning, it becomes a council of war. Already a pattern begins to reveal itself. Each sacrifice strips away something comfortable: family, health, friends. And yet these sacrifices are not punishments, they are trades. You give up what weakens your focus so that you may acquire what strengthens your power. This is why so few ever rise. The average man clings desperately to comfort, refusing to pay the price fortune demands. And fortune, like a cruel mistress, flees from those who hesitate. The next sacrifices cut deeper still. They will demand not only your comforts, but your pleasures, your hobbies, your leisure, your very time. You will learn why idleness is the poison of ambition, and why hours wasted cannot be bought back. In the coming part, you will see that fortune does not simply demand external offerings, it demands the very hours of your life. The pruning does not end with family, health, or friends. Those were only the beginning. If you truly wish to rise, fortune will demand more. It will demand the hours you waste, the pleasures you cling to, the illusions of balance that keep you weak. Machiavelli observed that idleness breeds decay, and nowhere is this more obvious than in the diversions men treat as necessities. The first comfort you must sacrifice is hobbies. The world tells you to pursue them for balance, but in the climb toward power, hobbies are often nothing more than refined distractions. Golf, video games, endless travel, collecting trinkets. These activities may enrich the spirit, but they do not enrich the account that secures freedom. Mark Zuckerberg did not build Facebook by painting watercolors on weekends. Jeff Bezos did not build Amazon by spending his nights at leisure. They lived monomaniacally, bending every waking hour toward their vision. Until you are established, your enterprise must become your only obsession. Hobbies will wait. Opportunities will not. The second sacrifice is time itself. You cannot cheat this one. Wealth requires years, sometimes 7, sometimes 10, sometimes more. These years are not filled with festivals and idle evenings. They are years at the desk, nights of negotiation, mornings of rising before rivals. Warren Buffett began investing at 11 years old and let compounding do its work for decades. Time, he knew, was the most ruthless judge. Time passes no matter what you do, but only the man who invests his hours wisely sees them multiply into power. Others spend their lives scrolling, watching, or waiting, and then wonder why their fortresses were never built. As the saying goes, suffer for a few years, or suffer for a lifetime. The wise endure the first, so they may avoid the second. The third sacrifice is happiness, or at least the easy, fleeting kind. No man finds joy in 16-hour workdays, in solitude, in unrelenting pressure. Even when you love your work, there are stretches where fatigue dulls your spirit and everything feels heavy. But Machiavelli taught that men are driven more by necessity than by choice. It is necessity that forces you forward when joy is absent. Sacrificing temporary happiness allows you to purchase a deeper kind later, freedom from bills, the dignity of independence, the pride of never bowing to another. The fleeting happiness of comfort must be exchanged for the durable satisfaction of sovereignty. The fourth sacrifice is sleep. Few topics divide more opinions. Elon Musk famously claimed to live on the edge of exhaustion, surviving on minimal rest, while Tesla and SpaceX fought for survival. Arianna Huffington argues the opposite, that sleep is the ultimate foundation of success. The truth lies not in extremes, but in discipline. History shows us that the great often stole hours from the night. Napoleon thrived on short sleep. Nikola Tesla pushed himself into insomnia during his breakthroughs, and Machiavelli himself would finish his duties, then study by candlelight deep into the evening, writing the works that outlived him. The poor man sleeps 8, 10, 12 hours, as if life were endless. The ambitious man calculates how many hours he can spare, then uses the rest to sharpen his edge. It is not only how little you sleep, but what you do with the hours gained. Step back for a moment and look at what has already been stripped away. Family postponed, health strained, friends dismissed, hobbies abandoned, time consumed, happiness shrunk, sleep diminished. And yet, this is not destruction, it is refinement. Iron cannot become a blade without the fire. You are being reshaped, hardened, prepared for something greater. But this next sacrifice is different. It does not take something external from you. It demands the surrender of who you are today. For the man you are now is not capable of commanding fortune. You must trade him in for a new version of yourself. The most dangerous illusion is that you can remain who you are today and somehow command wealth tomorrow. But Machiavelli reminds us that clinging too tightly to virtue or to any fixed identity often leads to ruin. Who you are now has produced your current reality, and if that reality is not yet wealth, then that version of you must be discarded. The sacrifice of self is the deepest and most painful offering fortune demands. Discipline must become your new identity. Without it, all other sacrifices collapse. Discipline is what forces you to rise when fatigue whispers back to bed. It is what prevents you from indulging in the comforts that undo ambition. The man without discipline is doomed to mediocrity, forever waiting for motivation that never comes. The disciplined man, however, rewrites his fate daily, carving out habits that compound into mastery. Consider Alexander Hamilton, born poor and orphaned, who disciplined himself into brilliance through relentless study and became the architect of America's financial system. The transformation of self always precedes the transformation of fortune. The next sacrifice is entertainment. Hours vanish in television, endless scrolling, video games, and sports consumed from the sidelines. These may numb the fatigue of life, but they do not sharpen your blade. Machiavelli advised rulers to appear constantly occupied with matters of state, so as not to seem idle or weak. The same principle applies to you. If you appear consumed with your mission, you will not only become more productive, you will command respect. History's great builders were not consumers of distraction, they were creators of worlds. When Rockefeller worked, he was consumed by oil. When Edison experimented, he was consumed by light. Their entertainment was their work, and because of it, their names became immortal. The following sacrifice is stability. Wealth is never built on smooth ground. It is a storm of risks, advances, retreats, and calculated gambles. Most men cling to ordinary safety, terrified of uncertainty, but fortune belongs to the bold. Machiavelli wrote that, "Fortune is a woman, and it is necessary, if you wish to master her, to conquer her by boldness." This means abandoning environments that trap you. Sometimes it means leaving your city, your job, even your country. The Renaissance merchants who became dynasties did not remain where they were comfortable. They chased trade routes, endured risk, and in return, commanded empires. The poor cling to safety, the rich gamble with strategy. The next sacrifice is income itself. Many sabotage their future by celebrating too soon. They spend their first gains on luxury, cars, vacations, or status symbols meant to impress. But every coin spent too early is a soldier lost. The wise reinvest. Every dollar becomes a warrior sent back into battle, compounding and multiplying. Andrew Carnegie, before he became the richest man in America, lived frugally, reinvesting everything into steel. He understood that pretending to be rich before you are rich is the surest way to remain poor forever. Machiavelli warned that men judge more by appearances than by reality, and here lies the trap. Poor men exhaust themselves trying to look wealthy. The wealthy appear humble until their fortress is unshakable. Notice what is happening to you in this process. The world is not only stripping away your comforts, it is reshaping your character. You are losing friends, family time, leisure, joy, stability, even the easy flow of income. Each of these losses feels like death, but in truth, they are metamorphoses. You are being carved down to a sharper point, honed into someone unrecognizable from who you were. And yet, even after all of this, there remain enemies still more dangerous. They are not external. They are not hobbies, friends, or income. They are hidden within you, psychological chains that undo more men than any hardship outside of them. These enemies are approval, pride, and immediate desire. Until you conquer them, no sacrifice will be enough. Even after comforts, friends, and stability have been stripped away, fortune will test you with a final battle. the enemies within. These do not come from outside. They live inside your mind, whispering when you are tired, tempting you when you are close to victory. Unless you sacrifice them, they will sabotage everything. The first is the hunger for approval. Machiavelli taught, "It is far better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." The truth is that many men remain poor because they fear disapproval more than poverty. They cannot say no to family demands. They cannot cut loose friends who drag them down. They cannot endure being unpopular when they choose an unconventional path. But wealth does not come to the agreeable. It comes to those who can endure resentment, ridicule, even hostility, without bending their vision. Consider innovators like Henry Ford, mocked for dreaming of affordable automobiles, or Elon Musk, laughed at for pursuing electric cars and rockets. Both endured disapproval. Both pressed forward. And the world eventually respected what it once mocked. The second inner enemy is pride. This is perhaps the most deceptive, because pride disguises itself as strength. Yet Machiavelli warned that rulers are judged only by their results, not the appearances they protect along the way. Pride convinces you that certain tasks are beneath you, that certain beginnings are too small, that temporary humiliation is unacceptable. But history proves the opposite. Many dynasties began humbly, Carnegie working in factories, Ray Kroc selling paper cups before McDonald's, Cornelius Vanderbilt ferrying passengers on a single boat. Each accepted small beginnings, swallowed pride, and built empires. The man too proud to start small is doomed to remain small forever. The third, and perhaps most seductive, is immediate desire. Human nature craves the sweetness of now. Small victories tempt you into indulgence, spending profits before they multiply, celebrating too soon, trading years of compounding growth for moments of pleasure. But discipline is the dividing line between the rulers of fortune and those who beg at her gates. The poor man spends what he earns. The rich man delays. Machiavelli wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." And the first command you must master is over yourself. To delay gratification is to multiply it. To indulge too early is to cut your own rise short. Step back and look at the full list. Family postponed, health strained, friends pruned, hobbies abandoned, time consumed, happiness traded. Sleep diminished, self transformed, entertainment cast aside, stability risked, income reinvested, comfort rejected, approval dismissed, pride shattered, immediate desires restrained. Each sacrifice tears something away. Each feels brutal. And yet, these sacrifices are not permanent losses. They are exchanges. You are trading years of discipline for decades of freedom. You are giving up fleeting pleasures to purchase power that endures. Those unwilling to endure this exchange live forever in shadows. They excuse their mediocrity as bad luck. They blame fate, the government, or the system, when in reality, they simply refuse to pay fortune's price. Machiavelli reminded us that fortune is the arbiter of half our actions, but she still leaves us to direct the other half. That half is yours to command if you are willing. If you have listened this far, you are not among the weak. Most men would have abandoned this lesson long ago, unwilling to confront its severity. But you have endured, which means you already possess the seed of discipline that could grow into sovereignty. Do not let this be where the journey ends. Decide now. Will you remain a spectator, excusing failure as destiny? Or will you pay the price fortune demands and join the few who rule? This is your moment. Every man has one. Most waste it. A handful act. Those who do reshape not only their own lives, but the world around them. If you are ready to step beyond hesitation, then remain with us. Subscribe, join this community, and together we will sharpen the discipline needed to build your fortress of wealth and power. In a world where hesitation is defeat, commitment is your greatest weapon.